Welcome to CTV News, Your Canada. It is Thursday, March the 13th. We'll bring you profiles of fascinating Canadians and stories about your community. Thanks for watching.
For Jaden Brick, the airport can be overwhelming with the noise, long waits, and busy crowds.
Being someone with high active activity, the wait can be a little ugh.
It's a feeling many can relate to, but for those living with ADHD and autism, the entire experience can be even more challenging.
It can be a little stressful, but when you find the right tools to either relax, not think about other things, the stress, it just feels like you're in your comfort zone.
Tools like this video.
We reached the airport. It's big, busy, and sometimes noisy.
Jaden is the voice behind one of the first resources designed to guide kids with learning or sensory needs through the process. Created by CHEO in partnership with the Ottawa Airport, it's a step-by-step walkthrough of what to expect from check-in to security and boarding.
It's a long time coming. I think that we're more accepting in our society that there's all kinds of different needs out there and that it's absolutely okay to need a little extra help.
Building on the Sunflower program, launched last year at the airport, a global initiative helping travelers with hidden disabilities identified by this lanyard.
It's to show that I just need a little help and to just let me control all my emotions.
Making travel easier, not just for those who need it, but for those traveling alongside, like Joanne, Jaden's mom.
I find that the step-by-step is fantastic because a person can really look into what is needed for the child, but also for yourself to stay calm in a new environment.
And with all this preparation, if you ask Jaden where she'd fly given the chance,
the one place I would definitely dream to go is going to Japan.
Woohoo! Now we're flying.
Caitlin Wilson, CTV News.
Can you tell me who's your favorite princess of all time?
Snow White.
You can step into an enchanted world without ever leaving the city.
First thing that came to mind was Casa Loma. I mean, look around, it's beautiful in here. It's the perfect backdrop for our story.
The Snow White exhibit at Casa Loma is celebrating the iconic Disney film with an interactive pop-up exhibit ahead of the new adaptation's debut March 21st.
It's so nice to see families and young kids coming through in their princess dresses.
Free for kids under 3, there is something for every generation to enjoy, from interactive stations to acrobatic performances.
We got to have a daughter and mommy date.
Well, there's different experiences at different levels, different touch points. There's the castle itself, so it's not just one tour, it's an entire experience.
Holding space for everyone to live out their enchanted dreams in real life.
I'm a princess.
Because who doesn't love a fairy tale? Doesn't matter how old you are. This is for all ages.
With a touch of magic in every room, the enchanted experience here at Casa Loma runs all the way through until March 20th. Jessica Smith, CTV News, Toronto.
He joined the Alberta Paleontological Society when he was 13 because he loves rocks and fossils. Now Atarva Roy took on the task of digitally recording the Society's fossil collection using an app on his phone and a laptop.
Photogrammetry is just essentially taking a bunch of pictures from many different angles of an object, and then you put it into a software, and the software spits out a very nice and pretty accurate 3D scan. And so that led me to co-hosting the Paleo 2025 workshop with Dr. Emily Bamforth and Jackson Sweeter from the Philip J. Currie Dinosaur Museum up in Wembley, Alberta.
Roy might be the youngest co-presenter the event has had, but the work he's done can help paleontologists and amateurs all over the world share their discoveries.
You can use that to make a 3D scan of the fossil you find, send it over to a paleontologist, and that will be super helpful for the paleontologist to determine the scientific significance of your find.
This is the 28th year for the Paleo Symposium, and it's a way for people to share their passion of Alberta's rich prehistoric history.
Several of our members started as kids and now are pursuing careers in paleontology. And it's interesting to see the graduate students who will often give us talks. And now they gave us a talk when they were, 10 years, 15 years ago, and now they're curators at museums.
Taco Koning's background is in geology, and he's passionate about the Tyndale stone that can be found all over Calgary and dates back close to 500 million years. He enjoys sharing what he knows about fossils at the Paleo Symposiums.
Some of the kids bring rocks, okay? And so we have a table set up where we have some guys who know what they're talking about, including me, more or less. And then the kids bring and they say, hey, what is this a fossil? Is this a rock? You know, how old is it?
The free event is at Mount Royal University this Saturday. Kevin Fleming, CTV News, Calgary.
Right in the middle of what should have been the happiest time in her life, Cindy Robitaille received devastating news. She found out she had brain cancer while she was pregnant with her daughter.
J'ai fait une crise d'épilepsie dans mon sommeil.
She says it all started in 2022 when she had a seizure while sleeping. Doctors told her she had grade 2 glioma with a particular mutation. In other words, a rare brain tumor.
Sur le coup, j'ai pas réagi.
At just 31 years old, she says she didn't know how to react. A few months after giving birth, she had surgery. Doctors removed most of the tumor, but they couldn't get it all. Instead of undergoing chemotherapy, she's taking a new drug called Voranigo. Doctors say it targets the cancer more accurately without major side effects. The drug also slows down the growth of the tumor.
Ça m'apporte beaucoup de positif.
Robitaille is happy her quality of life remains the same. Dr. Sarah Lapointe, a neuro-oncologist at the CHUM, calls it a groundbreaking treatment.
We are very happy about this drug.
Despite it being a rare tumor in general, Dr. Lapointe says grade 2 glioma is very common among young people.
There is about 50 to 80 new cases in Quebec per year.
The drug was approved last fall. Dr. Lapointe says there's a lot of hope that comes with this treatment. And while Robitaille's cancer is incurable, the new treatment is giving her more time to spend with her family. Sweeterassi, CTV News.
This corner of the St. Albert Public Library is filled with books, but it wasn't always. It used to be known as Apple Tree Corner, the home of the reading tree.
It really became a landmark for a lot of people.
The tree was donated from a local McDonald's and touched up by a local artist. It moved around a bit over the years, but it watched over young readers for several generations until the library underwent renovations in 2023. And as they were planning those renos, library staff realized there was no longer room for the old reading tree.
We weren't expecting the onslaught from people just coming in and going, where is this apple tree? Where's my apple tree?
That led to a bit of a problem. What do you do with a reading tree that a library no longer has room for? Luckily, the tree didn't have to travel very far, just a little ways down the hallway, finding a new home amongst other icons of the past. Curators at the Musée Héritage Museum were creating an exhibit featuring a number of signs and objects from St. Albert's past, and there was plenty of room for one evergreen local celebrity.
It's something they really associate with a formative time in their life, especially learning to read and that time with family, going with your parents to the library.
Alongside the apple tree, the bear from the infamous Bruin Inn, the hotel's bar so popular in the 1940s the saying goes St. Albert's population doubled over the weekend, a piece of the beloved Ducky Dome hockey arena, or the Grandin Theatre's marquee. The seats squeaked, but the prices were cheap.
It's not necessarily the connection to the most important historical event that happened in our community, but it's those little stories that are really kind of the lifeblood.
The evidence of how much those little stories can matter is right here in the goodbye messages that kids wrote to the apple tree on its last day.
It's something that you express to a friend if you have a friend who's moving away. Life changes and it can be so hard. So it really shows the breadth of love in our community for the apple tree.
In St. Albert, Connor Hogg, CTV News.
Anyone she touched was better for that.
Fun, kind, special. Those are just some of the words being used to describe Tracey Baker, the longtime Barrie community advocate and owner of the now closed Zuzu fashion boutique, succumbed to a courageous journey with cancer earlier this month.
Gregarious, yes, and very caring for people.
She was always thinking of the community. She was always thinking of others.
Former CTV anchor Jane Pritchard benefited from Baker's generosity firsthand. while she was navigating the stressful world of writing when publishing her book, Breast Cancer After the Diagnosis, Baker offered to host her first book signing.
I appreciated that so much. My very first book signing, she had faith in me, what I was doing, and we were sort of on a similar journey, so I think we had that in common too.
Be it helping launch local authors, creatively cleaning up the neighborhood, or selling her one-of-a-kind fashion, she had a special presence in the city's core that was seen as foundational.
It means so much to have a person like that that just, looks beyond herself, beyond her store, and takes in the community is special. And I think, she just provided so much.
And while she loved bettering her community and helping other humans,
I will say she loved dogs, and so anything to do with dogs, it was her passion.
The dogs are incredibly smart. They spend 2 years training.
That passion for her four-legged furry friends led her to her role as a leading voice for Cope service dogs.
She has this magnetic personality, so everybody wants to be get behind what Tracey's getting behind.
While it's tough to quantify anyone's generosity, Boak says Baker's contribution to Cope is unparalleled.
Just before she passed, she had the honor of naming one of the Cope dogs, and she chose the name Grace.
And when asked what lessons she learned from her years-long friendship with Baker, Catherine Kenwell says,
Grace. I think that's the word.
A coincidence? Maybe. Or perhaps just a telling sign that in one of her final actions, she named one of her favorite creatures, a character trait that she centered her entire life around. Dana Roberts, CTV News, Barrie.
Pickup hockey, bringing together guys from a wide age range to get exercise and play the game they love. But a new opportunity is in the works.
This is about 5 years in the making.
The Nova Scotia Hockey League is launching this fall, sanctioned by Hockey Nova Scotia and Hockey Canada. Since officially announcing it Tuesday, there's already been 33 applications for teams across the province.
This is a community-based hockey league. Like, we want the locals. They're going to be living here. They're going to be working here. They're already here. They're going to be your plumber. They're going to be your night crew at the grocery store.
While university hockey isn't for everyone, this new Senior A League will offer competitive, full-contact opportunity for those with nowhere else to go for the first time since 1998.
Watching fourth-year junior hockey players who are really in their prime being told there's nowhere to play this competitive game anymore really stuck to me.
It will be for players 20-plus years of age, and the news is already making rounds at the rink.
You're at home every night with the family and the kids, and you can run a job. So the competitiveness and the edge that we're all looking for to play that highest level is still an option.
Pretty cool. Honestly, I think it's been something that's been missing.
Tyler Noseworthy left Nova Scotia after playing junior hockey here before going to the U.S. and Australia.
I've coached for a number of years here now. I kind of got the itch a little bit to go play, so will it happen? I don't know, but if the opportunity comes, I certainly will give it a go.
The puck drops between the 8 teams in October for the 20-game inaugural season, with hopes of growth in the years to come. Callum Smith, CTV News, Halifax.
So we've all seen very elaborate masks.
A mask worn by a bride on her wedding day, just one of many artifacts from the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic in Manitoba.
When it began, I realized that, this is a momentous occasion in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and the world, of course, and so I really wanted to capture that moment.
Manitoba Museum curator Roland Swansky has been collecting artifacts and pieces of art like this one to preserve the history of that time. For Manitoba, it began on a Thursday afternoon 5 years ago.
The first presumptive case for COVID-19 is in Manitoba.
Those words launching Manitobans into a new world, a world of mask mandates and social distancing, quarantines and lockdowns, variants and vaccinations. It brought convoy protests over health orders and vaccine mandates. All the while, Manitobans were urged to flatten a curve that continued to grow. And then this.
Today I have the sad duty of announcing Manitoba's first death related to COVID-19.
These grim daily bulletins told of surging deaths in personal care homes.
This is my dad.
Among them, Eddie Callisto Tavares' father, who died during an outbreak at the Maples personal care home.
I still have nightmares of being the only one at the Maples with so many people crying for help, and there was no one there to help them.
In the 5 years since, she's been advocating for changes in the system.
We have made some strides.
Sue Vochuk with the Long-Term and Continuing Care Association says there has been improvements.
Staff ratio has definitely increased. We now have infection control associates that work on the PCHs, working specifically with infection prevention and control.
COVID-19 will see transmitted year-round.
Manitoba's top doctor, Brent Rusin, says while the pandemic may be behind us, the COVID virus remains, and with it, the messaging that became a sort of mantra during his daily bulletins.
Staying home when ill, washing hands, and then of course vaccines, especially if you're at risk of severe outcomes.
Back at the museum, Sawatsky hopes this collection will show future generations the resiliency of Manitobans.
It was a very difficult time with repercussions that we're still feeling today, but what you see here is the best side of people, their creativity and their love for others.
Danton Unger, CTV News, Winnipeg.
Olivia Empson is only 9 years old, but she's already kind of an expert on mindfulness.
Mindfulness is a big fancy word to paying attention.
What mindfulness does is that it calms and clears that big feeling.
Mindfulness is more than a mental health buzzword. It's a way of life for thousands of people around the globe. It's also at the center of Melissa McIntosh's world. The Stratford mother is the founder of Mindful Kids Incorporated, which has been teaching kids how to be mindful for the past 8 years.
We often ask kids to pay attention, or we tell them to pay attention, but as adults we often don't show them how, and that's what we do with mindfulness. It's all about the how to pay attention in certain ways with different mindful tools to find our calm in our everyday lives.
For Olivia and her fellow mindfulness campers, it's about learning how to self-regulate when things don't go their way.
If I'm having like a sad day at home or an angry day or at school or anything, it helps me calm down, so I have like more options to do other than just like talk to a teacher or get mad about something.
I call it the lost art. A couple generations ago, it was just a way of life, and life is beautiful and abundant and busy. Technology is fantastic in many ways, but it's really teaching kids a way to cope in a positive way in the world that we are living in right now.
McIntosh, who has a background in education, offers mindfulness camps like the one in Stratford happening right now, along with one-on-one sessions for kids. Some are centered on kids in sports or girl empowerment, but all are based on the art of mindfulness.
And it's not always just by meditation. We don't sit on a mat for 60 minutes at a time. We're integrating mindfulness in everything that we do so they can find their calm and carry on and get their best days out of their life.
Mindful Kids Incorporated, it's going so well, McIntosh hopes to license the Mindful Kids Way beyond Stratford so kids across Ontario can find their calm. Her work is highly endorsed by young Olivia. Do you think adults should learn about this?
Probably.
In Stratford, Scott Miller, CTV News.
The Ojibwe National Urban Park was originally pitched as a way to protect hundreds of acres of environmentally sensitive land in Windsor, but critics say a recent announcement from the federal Liberals earmarking the end of the year as the latest when the park would open raises more questions than answers. On Saturday, Environment Minister Stephen Guilbeault announced more than $36 million in funding for the park, but Windsor West MP Brian Massey of the NDP says that funding only applies to a small fraction of the originally proposed land.
What I'm worried about is people think that this is done.
Massey says the proposed park was originally supposed to combine 6 pieces of protected land. That's why he introduced a private member's bill that would have legislated those lands as part of a national urban park. But that bill was halted when Parliament was prorogued, and Massey says Ottawa's new plan only confirms Ojibwe Shores, a 33-acre federally owned parcel, leaving nearby key lands unprotected.
If they were really sincere about this, they could take my legislation, which is also just changing geography points that actually include the land into Parks Canada's overall master plan.
Windsor Mayor Drew Dilkins says the city has been waiting for clear direction from Ottawa on how the park will move forward, but so far that has not happened.
We're willing to meet with Parks Canada and sit down and figure this out, but it's been 3 years. It's been 3 years.
Dilkins says delays are putting environmentally sensitive areas at risk, and both he and Massey worry that without legislation, future governments could cut the park's funding altogether.
We're tired of playing games on this. Let's get it done. Let's get it done and let's get it over the finish line.
Both Dilkens and Massey say they want Ottawa to introduce legislation that would guarantee protection for all the lands originally included in the National Urban Park Plan before the next federal election. Massey has also sent a letter to the federal environment minister asking for clarity on the park's boundaries and how the funding will be used. In that letter, it also asks the government why they shifted away from Massey's proposed legislation, which the Windsor West MP says would have provided stronger protection for all the lands proposed. Ricardo.
Okay, Sanjay, thank you for that. Something we'll keep on top of. That's CTV's Sanjay Margaret tonight.
In an economy that's been hurt by tariffs, local tourism officials believe their industry could be a shining light for Northern Ontario. With growing disdain for neighbors to the south, many Canadians could be staycationing this year rather than booking trips to the United States.
We know that Canadians spend $28 billion visiting the U.S., and so certainly we want to capture a lot of that here in Northern Ontario. And we're just beginning the conversation with our destination partners and other partners on how we can develop campaigns that can capitalize on this trend.
Although the Canada-U.S. relationship is strained politically, many northern operators are hearing that Americans will still head north of the 49th this travel season.
They're getting a lot of people coming and apologizing for their government's position, and a lot of people saying we voted for them, but we didn't vote for this. So I think, again, with the favorable exchange rate, is looking very good for us, both in terms of Americans coming as well as people from other countries.
The Great Lakes cruise ship season may have been booked before tariff impacts on traveling habits, but it's expected to continue its steady growth. With a majority of passengers from Europe, Asia, and the United States, officials expect those tourists to spend a lot of money when they dock in Northern Ontario ports.
It's a real opportunity for us to shine. I've been in this business quite a long time, and over the years we've seen all kinds of interesting opportunities to shine on a world stage, if you like. And I think now is one of those times.
In 2024, the Northern Ontario tourism sector accounted for roughly $2.4 billion. They've seen growth of 8% per year since 2019, and officials believe that increased traffic from within the country and abroad could see them surpass $3 billion in a year for the first time. Corey Nordstrom, CTV News, Sault Ste. Marie.
Before Michelle Gagnon figured out that her cat enjoyed fetching rope from the balcony in the snow,
good boy,
Bodie was a skittish kitten.
He'd be like, oh, I don't know about this, it's kind of scary.
But he was also really curious about the outdoors, so Michelle started taking him for walks around the block.
He's just like, let me outside. I want to be outside every second of the day.
Which is why, when that first winter rolled around, Michelle and Bodie started skiing together.
And then now he's just like, let's go.
That led to summers filled with hiking together and cycling together, with Michelle responsible for both pedaling and padding.
Such a good boy. Wherever I went, I would take him with me.
Michelle started sharing Bodie's adventures on land through social media before introducing him to water.
He was like a magnet.
She says Bodie started pawing the liquid for a while before walking right in.
And I thought, wow, I should buy Bodie a paddleboard.
So she did. And paddleboarding led to what Michelle says is now Bodie's favorite activity, kayaking.
He just gets to sit there and watch the shoreline and smell all the smells.
And see all the sights.
You can tell by his facial expressions, and he's like, what are you looking at now? It's like, oh, there's like an otter.
Or a whale. Or on land, where Bodie often spots creatures Michelle wouldn't have, like this ram or that bear.
You can't get anything by a cat. They notice everything.
And they stop to experience everything all the time.
Kitty adventuring is not for people that want like direct results.
And that, Michelle says, the fact that her cat is not an adrenaline junkie, goal-oriented type A adventurer, is the best part about being with Bodie.
Go with the flow. Enjoy your time in nature and appreciate all the little things that they show you.
Adam Swatsky, CTV News, Nanaimo.